Hello guys and welcome to my channel. Ever since the hybe-min heejin drama started, people have taken a side and formed their own opinion, as well as their own narrative to believe. Obviously idols can also take sides, as they have their own thoughts and feelings, and they most definitely can make mistakes and chose to be on the wrong side of things. But when it comes to newjeans, it feels like many people have been taking things too far, almost considering them just as guilty as Min Heejin herself. But does it really make sense to do so? Or are K-pop stans just looking to find a new villain to blame just for the sake of drama and their own enjoyment? Let's try to discuss it in this video. But before we start, just a disclaimer, this video is not about Min Heejin and hybe. It's not about who is right and who is wrong. It's only about newjeans and the perception people are having about them. You're totally free to think I'm being biased, but in all honesty, I'm just trying to look at things objectively instead of believing random sensational narratives just because it's entertaining. Anyways, now let's go. First of all, let's talk about grooming. Ever since newjeans debuted, people have speculated that they had been victims of grooming. This all started after people began noticing a recurring pattern when it came to every project Min Heejin was involved in. She has always worked with very young idols and she surely did her fair share of weird things, such as giving them inappropriate lyrics like she did with newjeans and Cookie, giving them weird concepts like she did with NCT Dream when they were still young, giving them a school concept that revolved around them having a crush on a much older female teacher, and she also made minor idols pose inappropriately for photoshoots, just like she did with Taemin, forcing him to pose shirtless without even telling him beforehand. So we can conclude she is surely not the best person to be working with minors, and it doesn't help that she revealed she used to invite newjeans Maxne to her house alone, which many found weird and creepy. It's no surprise that people have accused her of grooming newjeans, and this isn't even hard to believe. But before getting into that, let's talk about what grooming really is. Grooming is when someone builds a relationship, trust and emotional connection with a child or young person so they can manipulate, exploit and abuse them. If newjeans were groomed by Min Heejin, this wouldn't be the first case of grooming in the entertainment industry. If you think about it, this doesn't sound too far-fetched. After all, the newjeans girls started training when they were all very young, and they were all away from home and distant from their parents. Some of them came from abroad and didn't even speak Korean that well, so naturally they saw Min Heejin as a guide, a motherly figure, and more often than not, a motherly figure can do no wrong in young people's eyes. They tend to see their parents as someone to trust and look up to, especially if their parents shower them with attention and love. So it's not hard to imagine how they might have found comfort in Min Heejin. This doesn't necessarily mean there was anything sexual going on between them and their CEO. In fact, grooming can also happen in the form of an emotional connection, which is still enough to then manipulate someone. Of course, we'll never know for sure if newjeans were groomed, but it's likely. For years you all were the ones who said newjeans have been groomed, saying that women had brainwashed them. You have always treated them as the victims, so why are you switching up now? If she really groomed them, how can you blame victims of grooming? Victims of grooming might not even be aware of the fact that they are victims. And before you all start saying that some of the girls are technically adults and should know better, the oldest member is yet to turn 20 and it's not like as soon as you turn 18 your brain magically matures. It's no surprise that newjeans are sticking by Min Heejin's side. They are stuck in the middle of this drama and they are simply turning to the person that they trust most, and that person just happens to be Min Heejin, because Heejin and the staff members in Adore are most likely the only people they actually know and have a close bond with. So if you were them, you'd most likely do the same, sticking with the only people that are close to you and trusting what they say, even if what they say isn't right. It's kinda like those kids that grow up in a homophobic family. How can you really blame them for becoming homophobic if that's all they've ever been taught? They've been fed a narrative and that's what they grew up believing. Same thing with newjeans and Min Heejin. This doesn't make the girls bad, and it doesn't mean they would still stand by that woman if they had not been groomed and manipulated. It's no secret that newjeans have signed statements showing their support of Min Heejin's claims against hybe, but obviously you don't know what goes on behind the scenes. They could have been forced to, or maybe they really did it on their own free will. But if you believe they might have been groomed, then it makes sense seeing why they would believe Min Heejin's words. Other than that, newjeans have stood by Min Heejin other times. For example, when it was revealed that Hybe-min had called her on the phone to check up on her and see if she was okay, which many people took as a proof that Hybe-min was blindingly supporting her. But first of all, this is something that Heejin made public, not Hybe-min, so it doesn't count as the girls publicly supporting her. because this is something that should have always remained private. That woman chose to make it public, maybe to twist the narrative in her favor and show that the members are by her side, using them to gain sympathy. And I can understand if the girls are by her side, because like I said, they basically grew up with her, spending their hardest trainee years by her side, and seeing Heejin like a mother. So of fucking course they would get worried for her amidst the drama. Don't tell me you wouldn't worry for someone you care about if they were in a rough situation, even if the person you care about is not a good person. I swear to God, you'll make it seem so easy to stop caring about someone you have loved for years. Let's say you just found out that one of your relatives did something bad. Even if you were disappointed in them, it's not like you would stop caring for them in the span of a few days. It might take time to process what happened and to distance yourself from them. Just think about how many victims of abuse end up going back to their abuser even if their abuser hurt them. Human relationships are complicated, especially in this kind of dramatic situation. Speaking of the members openly supporting Min Heejin, not too long ago, Min Heejin posted a letter that Danielle wrote for her, expressing how much she cared about her CEO and how she appreciated her. I must admit that letter was pretty straightforward and you can genuinely tell how much Danielle values Min Heejin as a person. Like I said, we have to remember these girls have known her since they were little, and someone like Danielle, who came from abroad and didn't know anybody in Korea, might have especially relied on Min Heejin during difficult times. But again, let's not forget that it was Min Heejin who decided to post the letter, once again making public something that should have remained private, which is pretty much like betraying Danielle's trust. Who knows, maybe Danielle gave her the permission to post it, but what if Min Heejin didn't even ask her? Considering how self-centered that woman is, I don't even think it's far-fetched to assume she made the decision without even asking for Danielle's consent. Also, we don't even know when Danielle wrote that letter. She might have done it even before the whole drama broke out, and Heejin might have decided to post it now to gain more sympathy from the public. But even if Danielle wrote the letter after the drama, it's not hard to believe that she would stick by a motherly figure like Heejin. In fact, in the letter, she explicitly says that Min Heejin is like a mother to her, and she's one of the people she trusts the most in her life. God only knows what narrative these girls have been fed, so talking trash about Danielle just feels extremely unnecessary. Some of you really want to turn her into a villain, almost as if she was just as guilty as Min Heejin, which is frankly absurd. I'm sure many of you are getting so comfortable in putting all the blame on Danielle because it's easier to treat her as a villain instead of understanding that she's most likely a victim too. And of course it's more entertaining to speculate about Danielle secretly being a mean girl who hides behind fake smiles and a friendly personality just to then stab people in the back. It's not the first time you all try to push this type of narrative onto female idols and it's not gonna be the last. Now I kinda wanna talk about newjeans' parents as well, because they were extremely vocal in the way they supported Min Heejin, even more than the members themselves. There are two possibilities here. They were either fed the same narrative that the newjeans girls were fed, and so they naturally started believing Min Heejin thinking they were doing the right thing for their daughters, or they are just cocky people whose daughters' fame got to their heads. You know how it goes when parents have kids who get famous. Sometimes they get too ahead of themselves and start becoming annoying as shit, almost thinking that their child's success is all thanks to them. Who knows? Obviously we can only speculate about what kind of parents newjeans' parents are. But even if they were self-centered and entitled, even if their daughter's fame got to their heads, this isn't newjeans' fault, and this doesn't automatically mean newjeans are just like their parents. There can be awful people whose kids are actually nice. It's not like kids always take after their parents' negative sides, but even if they had taken after them, ultimately this is still the parents' fault, not the kids. On the other hand, newjeans' parents might have just been believing everything Min Heejin said, especially considering they were not allowed to visit the dorms and see their kids often, so it's possible that they got most of their information from the company itself, and the company might have fed them whatever narrative they wanted, so believing the parents are bad is all just speculation. I guess you could say they're automatically bad for letting their young kids become trainees, but I don't see the same energy for other minor idols' parents, so it's kinda feeling like selective outrage. Anyway, I don't wanna take any side. For all I know, their parents could be awful people or they could be genuinely good people who are simply concerned for their kids. The truth is we don't know, and it makes no sense starting unnecessary narratives, especially because even if the parents were awful, it still wouldn't be newjeans' fault. Ever since the drama broke out, many groups have been dragged into this shitty situation, and naturally, K-pop stans didn't miss the chance to start with their own fanfiction-worthy narratives, first and foremost trying to make it seem as if there was beef between LE SSERAFIM and newjeans, and over-analyzing newjeans' interaction with MC Euncha, just for Euncha and newjeans to then friendly greet each other and smile at each other as well. Of course, just because they seemed friendly it doesn't mean there is no tension behind the scenes. Maybe there is, but it's almost as if some of you wanted to see them beefing so bad, even if they are most likely not. Another example is when newjeans won a trophy at Music Bank and Danielle started giving an acceptance speech, accidentally interrupting Euncha. It was so clearly a mistake that it just made me laugh seeing how some people were trying so hard to paint either Euncha or Danielle as the bad guy. How many times has it happened to you to accidentally start speaking right when somebody else started to speak? It happens so fucking often. The only difference is that Euncha and Danielle are public figures and everything gets blown out of proportions. Last but not least, people have been making up weird narratives about a 2-second clip of newjeans and ILIT passing by each other, either blaming ILIT for not bowing to newjeans, or blaming newjeans for not acknowledging ILIT, when the truth is, the idols most likely didn't even see each other considering in that moment there were so many groups on stage that even if they wanted to greet each other, it would have been extremely challenging with all the chaos going on. Or maybe it was just their respective companies telling them to ignore each other for the sake of avoiding even more drama, which is not surprising considering K-pop stans always have to turn everything into a tragedy even when it's not. As we've established, Min Heejin is a questionable individual. If we take a look at her past work at SM and some of the work she's done with newjeans, you can tell she is someone who should have never been allowed to work with minors, but SM enabled her, and HYBE did the same, so even if she's bad, these companies who let her get away with everything were pretty awful too, and they're just as responsible. But of course you all aren't ready for this conversation, because it's easier putting all the blame on her instead of acknowledging a much wider problem that extends to the whole industry. But anyway, what I wanna say is that despite everything, you have to be able to separate newjeans from Min Heejin, just like you have to be able to separate an artist from their company. For example, you can hate a company like YG because of all the problematic things they have done, but that doesn't mean you're not allowed to enjoy a group like Blackpink or Baby Monster, as they are not responsible for YG's wrongdoings, just like newjeans aren't responsible for Min Heejin's. Newjeans are quite literally like employees obeying their boss, a boss that has fed them God knows what narrative. Newjeans have no power in any of this. You can think they're such mean girls who are plotting behind their label mates' backs, but the truth is, they have little to no say in any of this. Just like ILIT and LE SSERAFIM, newjeans didn't start this drama. They most likely don't even know everything that's going on, and only get to know it when we do, when things get revealed by news outlets or something, because I seriously doubt Min Heejin tells them everything that goes on behind the scenes, and if she tells them something, she's only gonna tell them what she wants, what fits her narrative. If you don't want to support newjeans because you hate Min Heejin, then do as you please. If that woman has tainted the way you perceive the group, I can understand. You're free to not support newjeans, but don't try to blame them for what their CEO has done, and don't try to paint them as mean girls when they're most likely victims too. With all that being said, you're free to distance yourself from newjeans and the members if you no longer feel comfortable in engaging with their content. But sometimes I feel like you all are losing the plot and are actually hating the girls more than you hate that woman. I almost see more hate posts and hate tweets about newjeans compared to Min Heejin. It must be because painting newjeans as mean girls can fuel your dramatic fantasies more, because then you can overanalyze everything they say and every interaction they have with other idols, which is something that you can't really do with Min Heejin since she's rarely in the public eye. It's evident you're trying to create narratives for the sake of your own entertainment. And of course it's more entertaining to speculate about newjeans secretly beefing with their label mates and plotting something behind their backs instead of following the same old narrative where the bad guy is Min Heejin, because that story is getting old, and a CEO beefing with a company is not juicy enough for you. You all are getting bored of this story and are trying to make it more interesting with your baseless narratives. I mean, who knows? Maybe newjeans are really the bad girls you claim them to be. Maybe they are fake as hell and just as toxic as Min Heejin. Who fucking knows? We don't know any of these people, but judging from what we do know and what we have observed for years, the story seems to be different, and it seems to me like we've seen this story before in the entertainment industry, where people who actually have the power just do as they please, moving others around like marionettes for their own benefit, and in this case, the marionettes are newjeans, as well as LE SSERAFIM, ILIT, and every other group that has been dragged into this mess. Young idols that were used like pawns by those who really have the power, used to manipulate people's perceptions and to distract us from who the real enemies actually are. And as much as you're trying to paint newjeans or any other idol as the villain, they're most likely just another victim of this cruel industry. With that being said, thanks for watching this long-ass video. Don't forget to let me know your opinions down below. Bye guys.